Darian Durant. Back to school has already started in the South, hasn't it already?
Yes, it has. We're actually going on week 3 now, so we've been going for a second. I heard you just mention that majority of the schools there start after Labor Day, so no, it's been a long summer for a lot of parents out there.
I was just leaving that there. So did you do the back to school shopping thing and stuff? How involved were you with your kids in that?
Yeah, I lead the way. I don't like to label myself a fashion icon or anything like that, but I'm into fashion a little bit. So I like to get the kids dressed up, have them looking nice, get them some nice shoes, all that good stuff. So I lead the way and I love it.
So the 6 number 3 pencils that you needed and the 2 red plans and that didn't fall under your heading, did it?
Yeah, it did. It actually did. My wife, she just turns that stuff over to me, man. She doesn't have the patience, and I don't mind, right? But it's a lot different than when we grew up, right? We go to school with a notebook and a pencil and, maybe a 3-ring binder or something. But now these kids need some of everything. It's crazy.
Oh, you're not kidding me. And taking the eraser from Troy who sat in the aisle opposite. Yeah, that's what it was all about. I don't want to say that we went back to school, but the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Darian, definitely learned some lessons in a 30-16 setback in BC yesterday. What did you see from the game?
Yeah, you know what, man? I don't think the Riders played that bad. I just think it was a game full of mistakes. They had so many opportunities. They're about to score on numerous occasions inside BC's 30-yard line. You have a couple interceptions by Trevor. You have a huge fumble by Johnny Johnson as they're going down right before the half. That could cut the lead down a little bit. So, they're right there, man. I don't think BC did so much offensively that the DBs or the defense has a lot to worry about. I just think it's the mistakes. And even though it's a part of the game, I wouldn't look at this loss and say that BC just beat down Saskatchewan. I just look at it as Saskatchewan made so many mistakes and just couldn't overcome it. But if they score on any of those possessions where they get inside BC's territory, then we may be having a different conversation today.
Are those mistakes concerning for a veteran championship team?
I think so. I mean, the thing you don't want to do is turn the ball over and take at least 3 points off the board, right? I mean, you have to be extra cautious when you get on that side of the field. And, I think that Trevor knows that. Sometimes you get caught up in the environment, the situations, and things don't really register on time, especially on that first interception. You rarely see Trevor just throw the ball up for grabs in situations like that. I think they kind of surprised him a little bit with that zero coverage. And he and the receiver weren't on the same page, but he doesn't make a lot of mistakes with just throwing the ball up for grabs. So I definitely think he'll, put that in his mental Rolodex and make sure that doesn't happen again. But, when you're in a big time Western dogfight like this one was, whenever you're moving the ball like that, you get an opportunity to put 3 points on the board. You have to take advantage of it.
Darian Durant, obviously the interception gets hung on the quarterback, but you alluded to it, and I thought it was pretty bang on. Seeing the game live, sometimes you don't get all the angles from television, but it's not always the quarterback's fault, is it?
Yeah, I mean, type of miscommunication, guys not being on the same page could lead to a disaster. And sure, they talked about, if they were to get zero coverage, what adjustments needed to be made. But I think in this situation, things just happen so fast. Look, BC plays a lot of off coverage, and when they do blitz, they don't just line up in it so the quarterback can see it. They walk into it. They make sure that they kind of disguise it. So, I mean, it was just a split-second decision from Trevor trying to give, I think it was Keyshawn Johnson, just trying to give him a shot at it, and they just weren't on the same page, and you have to give TJ Lee credit. The veteran made a big-time play in a crucial situation.
After the game, my phone blew up for one of two things. One, trying to encourage Luke and I to try out a different sushi place the next time we're in Vancouver. And probably the one that was maybe more talkative and more probably apropos to this conversation is the fact that Trevor Harris looked frustrated. We didn't see it live. There was some shots on him from TV where he visibly was showing some emotion. What do you read into that?
Yeah, he did look frustrated. And I think it's more so of just not being on the same page. He's a timing thrower. He's a guy that needs his receivers to be where they're supposed to be on time. And, both interceptions it didn't happen that way. Like I said, the first one to Keyshawn Johnson, he threw it up for grabs a little bit, and maybe he thought Keyshawn was going to break inward or be ready for a jump ball, and he just wasn't. And then the second interception, the receiver just didn't fight to get inside position. Trevor's has his head down the middle of the field, just trying to make sure he doesn't tip off where he's going with the ball immediately. And then you could see the receiver just stop and allow DB to kind of get inside and fight for that inside position. And he made a play. Kudos to the DB for jumping that route, but as a receiver, you can never, ever, ever give up on a play, especially when you have an in-breaking route. You have to fight back to the ball for your quarterback, and it just didn't happen on that play.
So explain to me what the psyche of a quarterback is then. Obviously, Trevor is the ultimate competitor, and I don't think you play professional sports if you're not the ultimate competitor. But take me inside the psyche of knowing that things have broken down and have gone wrong and haven't worked out the way that you wanted them to.
Yeah, it's rough. And I think you have to, sit down with some of your veteran guys who are your playmakers, your Samuel Emulus, your Keyshawn Johnson, guys like that. And I think he has to, target those guys a little bit more. You can't afford to, try to force the ball to a receiver who you don't have super good chemistry with. There are times and places where if a play is drawn up with a new receiver and you want to take your shot at getting them the ball, get them some touches early to kind of get into a rhythm of things, that's one thing. But, with the injuries that the Riders have at the receiver position, you definitely have to get to your main guys and say, look, man, if I have to give you 15 targets, then so be it, 15 apiece. But I'm looking for you guys. You guys have to make sure that you where I need you to be. And, let's try to get this thing back in order because, when you give young guys a chance and they mess up and you throw interceptions because of it, then as a veteran, man, you kind of lose that confidence a little bit. And I'm not saying that this is what's happening, but I'm saying that when the game gets tight and you need a play, you need to make sure you're looking at your big time guys because you can't afford for what happened in BC for a receiver to give up on a play and let a DB get inside for an interception. That just can't happen.
As a veteran and a leader, Darian, how important was it to either not display or maybe to display your emotions in a football game?
I mean, sometimes you can't help it. I mean, it's just, he doesn't throw a lot of, and Trevor, he doesn't throw a lot of interceptions as is. So, when he gets two in a game and then it happens where you see a receiver not fighting back or not being in position. Sometimes you just can't hold it in. You have to let go. It's so hard, especially in such a warrior sport like football, to just sit there and just look straight-faced and hold in your emotions at all times. You just can't do that. I mean, he's done a great job of being poised and always seeming to keep his emotions under control. But, it's so competitive out there. You want to win every time. And then when you make mistakes, which Trevor rarely does, these things start to compound a little bit. Frustration is going to set in. And I think that's exactly what we saw.
Obviously, from, again, what I was pointed out to on the phone, aside from ordering more squid, was the fact that Trevor really, I don't want to say internalized it, but because that's the wrong thing. Like, he didn't go and get in the face of the receivers or make a big deal about it on the sidelines. He just kind of went about his way and reset himself. Is that what you would have done as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, sometimes you forget the camera's on you, right? And as soon as he threw the interception, you can see him take his helmet off and just let out a yell because he's frustrated, right? But sometimes you just have to leave it up to the coaches. And Marquay McDaniel, he's been in the receiver coach, he's been in that situation numerous times, and Trevor understands that. So sometimes you just let the coach do his job and let the receivers know what's going on. And it's not up to Trevor. Needs to just sit there and get his composure back, and I think that's what he did a great job of. I mean, if you look at the rest of the game, he made some throws to close close out that game. So I think he did a great job of just letting his frustration out quickly, but regrouping, getting his composure back, and you still have to go out there and play regardless of what happened. There's still time on the clock, and you still feel win. So we're all human, man, and it's so hard to just keep a straight face every single possession, especially when you're making mistakes.
So does it ever get heated? Like, I can't imagine you and Chris Getzlaff ever raising your voice to one another just because you guys are that tight.
No, that's happened now. That's happened. It's happened a couple times, actually. I mean, you get fired up. You're expecting one thing, and sometimes in the heat of the moment, or when a guy's running full speed, he may see something else and decide to do something else, and you're just not on the same page. So that's why during the week we spend so much time together trying to go over every single scenario possible that the defense can throw at you. But everything doesn't work out perfectly as many as I've been playing with Getty. You still make mistakes sometimes. Sometimes it's my fault. Sometimes it's his. But the beauty of it is you can go at it on the sideline, you can yell at each other, but we both understand that it's just about being in the heat of the moment. You can't let that affect you. We're all professionals here, and you have to move on.
Darian Durant, Double Talk continues here on this Monday. Appreciate your time as always. Want to get your reaction, though, to some calls that we had post-game, as well as on our Prairie Land Rentals text line at 306-936-6262, condemning the Rough Riders for maybe targeting Sam Emilus as much as they did. Of course, he left the game with an injury late in the ball game trying to make a reception on third down. Targeted 12 times, 7 receptions for 66 yards, coming off the 6-game injured list. The narrative that was being brought to us was that the Riders shouldn't have been targeting him as much. Again, he's just coming off the 6-game injured list. What is your reaction to that?
I think that's crazy. I mean, he's getting paid the big bucks, man. He has a lot of responsibility on himself, and once you decide that you're good enough to play, then you have to take what comes with that. He knows that with Schaefer Baker out and with teams kind of keying into Keyshawn Johnson, that he's going to be the next guy available to get the targets. And, with him being one of the better receivers in the league, I mean, in order for Saskatchewan to win, you have to get him the ball. So there's no such thing as too many targets or easing your way back into the game or because you've been hurt. If that's the case, then you leave that up to the coaches to get you in, a couple plays here, take you out for a couple series and kind of ease you in that way. But if you're out there and you're running routes and you're the guy that's the read for the quarterback, then you're going to get the targets. So like I said, these guys get paid a lot of money. He's one of the higher paid guys in the league, and if he isn't healthy, then you have to leave him on the sideline. But if he is and he's out there in the game, you have to, especially if you're Trevor and he's your guy, you have to try to get him the ball. We're trying to win. We see the standings. We see what's going on with Edmonton. You try to fight off BC and the streak that they're on, and then Winnipeg is Winnipeg. So there's a lot of teams fighting for positions, and you can't afford to sit there and have your horses, on the sideline if they're available to go.
So hearing you loud and clear, Sam Emilus would have determined that he was okay to go, and therefore you trust him whatever percentage of health he's at. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that last pass at the end of the game where he kind of took a big hit, I just think that's just a product of the Riders being down, BC sitting back in coverage, and when sometimes if that's the situation and you're trying to score, you have to try to fit the ball to smaller windows and tight situations, and it's just one of those situations, man. It's unfortunate. If he would have came down with it and had been okay, I don't think we'd be having this conversation right now. But, as we see here on the replay, at the end of the day, you can see BC just sitting back in soft coverage, and they're able to just close in on the ball. And, that's just what happens.
Wes Cates was telling the story and talking a little bit about how the one season he injured his foot. And so he knew that one week it might be good, the next week it may not be good. But he was given the details as far as what he could expect as far as pain tolerance, what he could do as far as performance, and it was kind of his choice that, okay, I'm going to keep going and playing. I want to do that. Yeah. Is that the similar thing that would happen with you, for example? Darian, we know you're not 100%, but Can you go? Is that your call? Is that the medical team's call? Do you have to sit back and listen to your family and friends saying, Darian, don't push it? How does that conversation happen?
Well, it's a combination of all those things. Really, I mean, if you feel like you're ready to go, then the training staff has a list of things that you, or a so-called test that you have to pass, to make sure that you're as close to 100% as possible. They're not just going to let you out there if you can't go, especially when you're dealing with a lower body injury. They want to see you cutting smoothly. They want to make sure that you can withstand a guy's weight bearing down on you and on your limbs and things like that. So it's not like you can just say, I feel the pressure behind me. We need this win. I want to get out there and play. No, there's a long list of things. You have to show that you're good to go. So, I mean, Emulus passed every test. And, I saw him at practice this week. He was smiling. He seemed as if he was ready to go. And he looked good early on. I think a guy rolled on him with one of the fumbles. He was around the pile, I think, and a defender came in and tried to recover a fumble and rolled up on his ankle, and you could see him limping after that. And then, that last pass play, he hit the ground pretty hard. So it's just an unfortunate situation. But like I said, I know he said he was good to go. The training staff gave him the okay, and that's just how it goes.
Do you want to get your thoughts on what happened around the CFL today with Ottawa bringing in Jim Popp? Before we do that, though, the play of the week might have been offensive lineman Daniel Johnson, who went in as a tight end and made the reception on the sidelines. As a quarterback, you're throwing that to a wide-open offensive lineman. How much pressure is there on you to just float that puppy in?
Yeah, it's a ton of pressure, man. And if you watch Trevor on this throw, he doesn't throw it like he would throw a typical out, right? He tries to make sure he guides it to make sure that it goes right in his chest. I'm more impressed with the run after catch than I am with the catch. I mean, the catch looked easy. It looked natural for a big guy, but for him to high step the sideline, break a tackle, get going, man, I'm more impressed with that. So, you may see something down the line in the playbook with this guy getting a rock, because he showed that he can make plays when his opportunity comes.
Apparently there was some tight end in him, or in his past football history.
You can definitely tell. But
he didn't even crack a smile or anything at the end of the play. It was a short yardage play 2 plays later when he kind of cracked the smile when the fellow big men came in.
Well, you could tell that the reason he didn't smile is because he's used to doing that, right? It's like, man, no need to congratulate me, no high fives needed. This is what I do, right? So that was his attitude. And you could just tell how he walked, his swag, everything after the catch, right? You could tell that he's been there before.
And the story behind the catch as well, if you watch it, when he goes back to the huddle, he's going ahead and basically stroking the chest to make sure, reporting that he's an eligible receiver. Well, Daniel had a problem with that a couple of times this season. So what they've done in practice is they have different coaches put on a white hat. So before they run a rep, he has to run around to the coaches, find that white hat that says Daniel report, and physically report to them prior to every play.
Yeah, that's crazy. But it's such a crucial part of the game, right? Usually when you bring in that extra old lineman and he's reporting to the refs, it's more so in a short yardage situation where you're probably in scoring range and you're about to score a touchdown. So if you don't report, or it's a huge third down conversion or something like that, if you don't report, now you're backed up 5 yards, now you have to punt, or you're not scoring a touchdown. So it's a huge part of the game, and kudos to the Riders for kind of finding an innovative way to make sure he reports, because it's such a crucial part of the game.
Oh, boy, the stories that could be told, I'm sure, on that. Darian Durant, the big news in the CFL has been Ottawa Red Blacks, of course, fall to 0-10 this week. They bring in Jim Popp right now. What do you see? Obviously, Jim Popp. You've been around the game long enough. What is going to happen in Ottawa now?
Well, first and foremost, I think Jim Popp is one of the best evaluators of talent out there. So, what it seems to me is that Ottawa just has a problem with getting talent in there and getting guys, that are able to compete with the teams around the league. If you look at them, pretty much since Henry Burris left, they just haven't had the talent that they usually have. So, when it comes to scouting and finding guys that can really, really play, Jim Popp is one of the best to ever do it. And, he's great with putting coaching staff together. I think he'll just do a good job of just putting the pieces in place, not necessarily paying and wanting to overhaul everything. I think he'll go in there piece by piece, see what the weak links are, see what pieces of the puzzle need to be taken out, and just clean house from the inside. But I think this is a great move for Ottawa. They need to get the talent in there to be able to compete, and what better guy to bring in than Jim Pop to do that.
And Darian, I was reading this today, and I'm sorry to keep you long. I know that you mentioned he's the utmost talent evaluator, but the one thing that I read about him today, and maybe you can explain this better to me, is that he understands how the talent can be talented and work together, in the fact that he can build a team. Can you explain that?
Exactly. Yeah, like it's not necessarily about the biggest, strongest, or fastest guys. I think some talent evaluators get caught up in, oh, well, he runs a 4.3 or he can bench 225 30 times. We need to give him a shot. No, Jim knows exactly his personnel, what type of players fit into the schemes, what type of players can evolve into. The CFL is a different game, right? So you need to go out there and find guys that know how to adjust to the game, guys that are smart. He's great at speaking to college coaches, kind of finding out if these guys can, learn on the fly, which the CFL is all about. You have to learn so much in a short amount of time. So he takes it beyond the field. He goes and gets guys that are locker room guys, character guys, and also guys that can fit in schematically with what they're trying to do and what the coaching staff is trying to do. So, it's an all together thing with Jim Pop. And that's the reason why he's had so much success.
I know trades are difficult to make in the CFL, but Ottawa is beyond the 9-game threshold where now veterans' contracts are guaranteed. Can you see them trying to make moves? I don't want to say full-blown fire sale, but is that part of the process that Jim Pop would have been brought in for?
Yeah, maybe so. And who knows, man? They may have been consulting with Jim the entire season. You never know. But, I think what happened with Geno Lewis earlier this season, and we really talked about it, but I think that was kind of, dumping some salary before everything was guaranteed, with him being one of the highest paid receivers in the league. And, the rift going on in that locker room between him and Dinwiddie or him and Jake Mayer, that was the start of kind of cleaning up a little bit and getting certain attitudes and guys out of the locker room. So I think that was a start, and you'll see a little bit more slowly but surely as time goes on. But it's definitely going to be a culture change, and Ottawa is needed. And like I said, you have the right guy in charge to kind of come in, start over, clean house a little bit.
I know I keep apologizing for keeping you late, and then I ask another question. Does Eugene Lewis play again in the CFL if he wants to?
If he wants to, I think so. He has to, look at the check that he's going to be cut by these teams and realize that it's not going to be what it was, and probably nowhere near that. So, and you just made a great point. It's now after week 9, with him being a vet, he can now come in on a minimum contract, and he can kind of pick and choose a little bit now, right? Kind of make sure you go to a team that has potential of winning a Grey Cup. So I think we'll see him again. He has to not necessarily humble himself, because I don't think that's the problem, but he kind of has to just come in and be ready to help and not necessarily look at himself as the star he once was.
Last thing for you, Darian, then. I know it's back to school. You've already been there, done that. I also understand that it's back to gymnastics. And
Yes.
some gymnastic studios have daddy-daughter days where dad goes in with daughter to see if they can complete the same amount of technical aspects that they've been practicing. So just a quick checklist. When you go for daddy-daughter day at gymnastics, can you do the forward roll?
I can do the forward roll. I can do a cartwheel. I can do some of the pull-up stuff. But when it comes to the front flips, back flips, and the stretching, that's my problem, man. The flexibility aspect of it is just not me. But other than that, I'm still able to hold my own a little bit, right? I'm not too far removed from the game. So right now, I can still go a little bit.
Backward roll, handstand?
No. Headstand, but not a handstand. I can get on my head and hold myself up, but handstand, no way. Shoulders can't take it anymore.
It's awesome to see you smiling about your daughters in gymnastics doubles. Appreciate you doing this as always.
Absolutely. Thanks again.